In the dusty archives of global industry, the story of China's electric revolution reads like a masterclass in strategic patience. A decade of deliberate moves that turned a sprawling, coal-choked economy into the unchallenged architect of tomorrow's power grid. Flashback to 2015. The world was buzzing about the Paris Climate Agreement. Tesla was still a quirky upstart selling fewer than 100,000 cars a year, and solar panels were mostly for eco-enthusiasts. China, then the planet's top polluter, promised to peak emissions before 2030. Most analysts laughed. Behind the scenes, Beijing was already laying a trillion-dollar trap. 10 years later, in December 2025, the trap has sprung. China now controls 75% of global battery production, 90% of rare earth refining, and 80% of solar panel manufacturing. This is not luck. It is the direct result of Made in China 2025, the industrial masterplan unveiled that same year to dominate electric vehicles, renewables, and batteries. What began as a defensive move against Western tech sanctions has become the greatest industrial offensive in modern history. Everything started with one document, Made in China 2025. Beijing committed at least $300 billion to 10 strategic industries, with new energy vehicles and batteries at the very top. The playbook was ruthless and brilliant. Pour $57 billion into the Belt and Road Initiative between 2000 and 2021 to lock up lithium in Australia, cobalt in the Congo, and rare earths in Myanmar. Create a closed domestic market. Only cars using approved batteries qualified for massive subsidies, instantly giving KTL, BYD, and others millions of guaranteed customers. Hand out near-zero interest loans from state banks, free land from provincial governments, and huge R&D tax breaks. The result was a self-reinforcing cost spiral that no one else could match. Domestic scale drove battery prices down 60% in a decade. By 2017, CATL had already overtaken Panasonic as the world's largest EV battery maker. Cheap Chinese EVs, often sold domestically for $10,000 or less, created the volume that crushed costs further. Then the exports began. In 2024 alone, China shipped 11.5 million electric vehicles, representing 65% of global sales. BYD, fully vertically integrated from raw ore to finished car, outsold Tesla worldwide in the final quarter of 2024. In 2015, China had roughly 30 gigawatt-hours of battery capacity and less than 20% global market share. By 2020, that had jumped to 500 gigawatt-hours and 50% share. By the end of 2025, China has over 3,300 gigawatt-hours of installed capacity, more than the rest of the planet combined, and roughly 75 to 80% of the entire world market. 6 of the top 10 battery makers are now Chinese. KTL alone holds 37.9% of the global market, BYD another 17.2%, and the list goes on. China also refines 60% of the world's lithium, 70% of cobalt, 85% of battery anodes, and 70% of cathodes. For the cheaper, safer LFP chemistry that is now sweeping the planet, China has essentially a 98 to 100% monopoly. Sodium-ion and solid-state batteries, the next big leaps, are also overwhelmingly Chinese-led. This is why a BYD Seagull can sell for $10,000, while a comparable Western EV costs 2 to 3 times as much. Rare earth elements are the secret ingredient in high-performance EV motors and wind turbines. In 2015, China already refined about 85% of the world's supply. By 2025, that figure is 91% for light rare earths and virtually 100% for the heavy ones like dysprosium and terbium. Production has grown from 105,000 tons in 2015 to 270,000 tons in 2024. After losing a WTO case over export quotas in 2010, Beijing simply consolidated everything into 6 giant state-owned groups and began using export controls as a diplomatic weapon. Gallium in 2023, graphite in 2024, 7 rare earths in April 2025, another 5 in October 2025. Each announcement sent prices soaring 200 to 500% overnight. Solar panels. In 2015, China made about 60% of the world's panels. By 2025, it makes 80%, controls 95% of polysilicon production, and 100% of wafer production. China installed 1,100 gigawatts of solar by mid-2025 and added another 277 gigawatts in 2024 alone, more new solar in 1 year than the United States has installed in its entire history. Wind. China now produces 70% of global turbine components and is building half of all the pumped hydro storage on the planet. Beijing has invested more than $50 billion in the solar supply chain since 2011, 10 times what Europe spent in the same period. Module prices have crashed 60% since 2023, bankrupting dozens of Western manufacturers while Chinese firms flood the planet with cheap panels. China has built 42 ultra-high voltage transmission lines, more than the rest of the world combined, capable of moving gigawatts across 3,000 kilometers with almost no loss. One $16 billion project alone beams 20 gigawatts of desert solar directly to Shenzhen's factories and data centers. This grid is why China can install solar and wind at insane speed without blackouts, and why it will have the cheapest, most reliable electricity for training the next generation of AI supercomputers. Training a single frontier AI model already consumes as much electricity as a small city. By 2030, the world's data centers are projected to burn 945 terawatt-hours per year, more than Japan's entire current consumption. The United States alone will see AI-driven demand double electricity growth and could consume 13 to 20% of national power by 2030. Domestic giants Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent, ByteDance, Huawei Cloud, and a dozen state-backed labs already operate some of the largest training clusters on Earth, powered almost entirely by Chinese-made solar panels and Chinese refined rare earths in the cooling systems. Export controls on gallium, germanium, and now high-performance magnets mean that even Western AI companies training on American soil are indirectly dependent on Beijing's goodwill. In 10 years and roughly $1 trillion of targeted investment, China turned the West's own climate rules into the biggest industrial windfall in history. The United States and Europe are now frantically spending hundreds of billions trying to rebuild supply chains that Beijing quietly captured while everyone else was busy giving speeches. China did not steal the electric future, it built it, factory by factory, mine by mine, subsidy by subsidy, while the rest of the world debated whether electric cars were even practical. The switch is now in Beijing's hand. The only question left is how long the rest of the world is willing to keep paying the electric bill. Subscribe to China Tech Chamatka for more in-depth analysis on topics like these.